Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Happy Hollow Read. We are in the home stretch. This has been a month-long foray, attempt at stuffing the month full of horror, thriller, suspenseful content. Whew. Today I want to talk to you about a book called A Head Full of Ghosts, and this is by Paul Tremblay. This is the story of the Barrett family. They live in New England. It is mom, dad, and two daughters. Marjorie is 14 and Meredith, or Mary, is 8. Marjorie starts behaving oddly. She starts displaying signs of schizophrenia. She's hearing voices. She stops taking care of herself. Her parents respond to that by getting her help in the form of a therapist and medication. But Marjorie's condition continues to worsen. And it's the father, Mr. Barrett, I don't know why I can't remember his name right now. It's the father who begins to think that maybe Marjorie is not suffering from a mental health problem, but is actually possessed. And so he enlists the help of a local priest, who then engages the family in a reality TV series known as The Possession. So the reality TV crew and everything descends upon the Barretts, which in turn causes protesters, especially a very specific extremist Baptist church that is never named in this book, but come on, we're not dumb. And the situation just goes from bad to worse. The television show kind of aids or rather facilitates an exorcism for Marjorie. First, I encourage you to seek out other information about this book, including maybe Stephanie's review over at That's What She Read, which I will leave that linked down below. This is not a new book, so there's plenty of other stuff to be read, 2015, and watched about A Head Full of Ghosts. This book is told in 3 ways. It is told first through snippets or sections of blog text by a blogger named Karen, whose primary intention with the blog seems to be to discredit or debunk the validity or the authenticity of the reality show and Marjorie's possession. The second way this story is told, and it is the way we are introduced to at the beginning of the book, is through an adult Mary being interviewed for a book by a woman named Rachel. So Rachel's asking Mary questions, and Mary is sort of filling Rachel in on the details, the insider details of this entire situation that occurred when she was 8 years old. Subsequently, the third way that the story is told is through 8-year-old Mary's eyes. It's written in first person with, from what I believe to be the same individual's perspective. The blogger does not identify herself as Mary, but Mary does claim being that she's blogging. So the story is, regardless of these 3 different methods with which the story is told, I believe it's being told in first person by the same person. It makes it for a very interesting, compelling, and complicated sort of read. This isn't your standard ghost story or horror story. And I guess the main thing determining whether or not you believe that Marjorie is possessed, that to me is the root of the story. It's complicated by the introduction of the reality television show element, right? Because on one hand, There are people who believe that reality television is reality. On the other hand, there are people like the blogger in this book who believe that nothing being produced by reality television can be perceived as reality. Secondly, one parent believes that Marjorie is possessed. The other parent does not. In fact, while one seems very devoted, or at least becomes very devoted to spirituality, the other parent mocks the church and spirituality. So you're also deciding between the two parents. And in the middle, you have the narrator, Meredith, or Mary, who at one point in the book says that she does not believe that Marjorie was ever possessed. I still have not decided. I've been thinking about this book for a week, and I still have not decided what I think is true or actual. It's not, unless I totally missed it, I could not find any concrete evidence to help me determine what's going on here. What in the world is going on here? It's frustrating. It's not a bad book. It's not a bad story. It's creepy. It's very reminiscent, again, of The Exorcist. I feel like, as a reader of horror, as someone who is particularly scared by modern religious themes and demon possession, and I'm particularly scared by those elements. So I find myself trying to find evidence in this book to back up my belief that Marjorie was possessed. But if I'm straining for objectivity here, I cannot honestly say that that is true. Now, don't be like me. Don't become so obsessed with whether or not this is about possession or mental illness. Because if you do, you're going to miss something incredibly important to the book, and that is this familial dynamic. Not unlike The Apartment, where, again, we're dealing with supernatural elements. This book also is ultimately about the destruction of relationships. What specific stresses will do to bonds or relationships that were previously believed to be permanent. This is, and Stephanie mentions how sad this story is. It is a sad story. I was reading it more for a shocking, chilling, horrific. I wanted that more out of it more. I feel like maybe I'm trying to force this book into being something that it isn't. What it is very critically acclaimed. What it also is a finalist of the Bram Stoker Award. I mean, this is a good book, and it is pretty creepy, and it is, again, plays on this fear of the unknown, right? You don't know for sure what's happening, and maybe that's the point. If I had had my answer earlier in this book, if I wasn't constantly wondering, I probably wouldn't have been as tense. I probably wouldn't have been as scared. And if that's the point of a horror novel, then it did a good job, because it is unsettling and haunting. And I don't know who to believe. The ending is so like, I can't tell you, but it's very unsettling. Beyond being a book that has obviously occupied my thoughts for the last week, here's what it also does incredibly well. I loved reading from an 8-year-old's perspective, an intelligent 8-year-old's perspective, an adult retelling her 8-year-old feelings on a situation. I felt like Mary as 8-year-old Mary was so genuine in this book. Like, that's my absolute favorite part. Paul Tremblay has gone and made me go back and remember how scary certain things were at 8 years old. How scary the dark is, how scary something old is, or something that's deteriorating, how scary that is when you're 8. And luckily, she's talking throughout the majority of the book. The story sucked me in, and unfortunately I'm still sucked into it, and so I want to know what the answer is. I want to know if this girl was possessed. And I'll get into more of this stuff on my blog, because I'll list the evidence to one answer and then the evidence to another answer, and somebody please come and tell me if it's even possible to determine whether or not she was possessed, or what you personally believe about the book. And there is rumor that this is going to be a movie. It's probably not a movie I would go and see, because I would be terrified. Obviously, if you've read it, I need to talk to you. If you haven't and you're looking for something creepy yet really profound and in depth, and kind of, it's a good portrait of an American family. Granted, there's some really extreme circumstances happening to this American family, but it deals with economic depression and, you know, the stress of not having anything and the stress of losing what you do have, on top of the obvious coping with a severe mental illness or some other adverse circumstance. And gosh, in the middle of it, there's this innocent 8-year-old girl, and I just cannot get past this 8-year-old narrator. I can't. So I won't burden you anymore. But obviously, if you've read this book, talk to me. If you want to read this book and you have questions that you don't think that I've answered, talk to me some more. I definitely look forward to reading thoughts, opinions, theories in the comment section below. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.